Hello and welcome. In the last video, we looked at the things that you should or you may consider doing in order to find your strengths, your weaknesses, your personality type, in essence. And I'm hoping you've done that. And you've also found a few role models. You have some idea of the type of job or industry that you are aspiring to join. So there are a few suggestions that I would have when it comes to choosing the employer or choosing the function that you are going to take up. If if you are someone who is my target audience, who comes from a relatively challenging financial background and who has worked very hard to get good education and is now entering the workforce or is in his early part of his career, then it is very, very appropriate for you to, or it's very understandable that the key things that will drive you is power and money. And I'm not saying it's wrong. So it's absolutely understandable to be driven by power and money. But after being driven by those two parameters for about 20 years, I can tell you that you might want to consider acquiring power and money in a manner that is very enjoyable to your natural proclivities. Um, there's quite a renowned book on this topic, which goes by the name of Flow, if I'm not uh, confusing it. And what it primarily, the essence of it is that we are the happiest, or we are the most productive, or we are at our best when we experience the type of flow that, say, a tennis player experiences when he or she is playing tennis without thinking about the outcome. Or when a student is solving a maths problem where there is nothing else that really matters other than solving that problem. So, a key piece of advice that I would have is that yes, go after money, go after power, but choose a field or choose a way of doing it which gives you joy in itself or by itself. Because if you do it, the chances of you acquiring power and money is much higher than you being in a field which really bores you or which you're doing it only for the sake of the outcome. So that's the first point. The second point is that irrespective of the profession or the function that you choose an employer where it is contributing to the top line rather than the bottom line. What do I mean? So if you are, say, if you want to get into finance, don't get into finance for a car company. Don't get into finance for a petrochemical industry. Get into a place where finance is the revenue generating function. So go and work for an investment bank or an asset manager or maybe even an insurance company. But find an employer for which that function is a revenue generating function. If you're a lawyer, be in a law firm. If you're a software engineer, be in a company that produces products or where software is the primary thing that it sells. So once you have chosen a function, choose an employer for which that function is a revenue generating function rather than a cost reducing or a support function. Because if you are in those functions, they're never as rewarding or as powerful as the one that creates or generates revenue. Now, what is an easy way to identify that a particular function is a revenue generating function for an employer? Again, there's the easy way. The easy way is to look at the starting salaries across that employer for the various functions. What you would see is that the starting salary in a function which is highly recognized would be slightly higher, say 5% higher or 10% higher than the starting salary in functions which are not that core to the company. Another way to look at whether it is the core function of a company is to see the pedigree of people who have risen to the top. So look at the CEO of that company, see where he is coming from or she is coming from. Where did they start and how did they start? That's a very good way to gauge whether the place or the thing that you're taking up is really the right thing. There is another very, very overlooked aspect, which I came to know very, very late in my career. Try to get into a department which is like the hub of communication flow, or is the department which is core to strategy or decision making. It might, in some cases, that such a department may not be the department that is the core revenue generating department. And in those cases, you starting in a function like that or getting into a function like that as early as you can will give you two or three things. Firstly, it will expose you to the information that is key to driving decisions. And if you keep your eyes and ears open, you can learn more than you can learn. You can learn in a department like that in 2 or 3 years more than you can learn in being one of the peripheral departments in 30 years. But then the curiosity to learn is equally important. But assuming you have that, if you are in a function which is a central decision making function, it's a very good place to be in. The second reason why it helps is that then you would be most probably exposed to people who are quite senior or higher up. And normally, these people who have succeeded in life, they know what it takes to succeed. They know the type of people who actually make it. So if you have real potential, the likelihood of them picking up and recognizing that you are the right person to drive the next initiative, or you have that innate potential, that's very, very likely. Whereas if you are in one of the peripheral functions, you will be surrounded by middle managers who have been there, stuck there for a very long time. And if you're really someone who's very sharp and competent, you may be actually seen as a threat rather than someone whom they can leverage. So expose yourself to powerful people, to people who have made it. And because those type of people have the capability to see true potential and aren't insecure in the way that mediocre or middle managers are. So that's my advice to you. My advice to you is that once you have zeroed on the function, join a company for which that function is a revenue generating function. Try to get into a division or a department which is core to the decision making. Expose yourself to people who are higher up or successful, especially people if they share your traits or are similar to you, that's even better. But then those type of people, they have an innate capability of smelling true talent, and try to get away from managers who are mediocre, because these guys will feel threatened from you and they'll do their best to make it as hard as possible for you to grow in your career. That's all for the time being. Thank you. I hope you find this advice useful. Bye.